Prabhupada ki. Shri Dam Dam ki. Hare Krishna. We'll do the class in English, yeah? Is that okay with everyone? Yeah? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll first read from the Transcendental Diary by Harisari Prabhu, chapter entitled Sri Vrindavan Dham. He added that he had recently undertaken a tour with Tamal Krishna and Tripurari Maharaj to St. Louis, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., and the result was an average increase in collections between $5,000 to $10,000 per month. Quote, "The results of this teamwork have been very encouraging," he wrote. "As far as Tamal Krishna is concerned, I am happy to report that he is showing a new cooperative attitude that in fact is increasing book distribution like never before, and has been demonstrated by our recent working together. In this way, if the GBC men, with their various talents, portfolios, etc., can work together, your divine grace will be assured that the management of ISKCON is going on and concentrate on the books." Unquote. Rupanuga enclosed a check for $1,000, which he said, quote, "I hope will help to mitigate any headaches caused by this letter." Unquote. Prabhupada heard the report with interest. He was concerned about Rupanuga's dissatisfaction with BTG, especially in view of the recent complaint by Sumati Morarji. He wrote back, quote, "Regarding the additional policy of BTG, editorial policy of BTG, if the editorial board is not expert enough, they should be changed. Dr. O.B.L. Kapoor also had put a similar complaint. Yes, scientific articles must be published when sent by our men. I cannot see every article, but some of you should examine why nice articles are rejected. See if the board can be changed. If experienced editors are not there, it will be unpopular magazine. These things are to be seen to immediately by the GBC. The board should be judged immediately and be changed if required." Unquote. As far as the Baltimore farm is concerned, Prabhupada told him not to worry. Quote, "Don't increase the field of activity if there is not sufficient money. There is no need of farm project there at Baltimore if the money is deficient. The Bhaktivedanta Institute must be very sound regarding income, otherwise how it will run on." You can see how decisive Srila Prabhupada was. Ready to make any changes that are needed. And if we're not decisive, if management is not decisive, then problems fester on and linger on, and sometimes tough decisions need to be made quickly and seemingly against certain other people, but the principle is always more important, the project, the goal, the ultimate goal. So sometimes if a manager is too sensitive to the individual feelings of somebody and they fail to make an important decision, then the project might be compromised because of the inability of some kind of weakness, you know. At the same time, we have Srila Prabhupada is so expert as well, obviously, at not offending anyone, not hurting anyone's feelings, you know. Yeah, so that's always the most important factor in one sense, and there's such a difficult balance as a manager, I think. I haven't been a manager much, but I've been in some small situations where that was required, some festival situation. And that's always it can be a difficult balance to make a decision based on somebody not performing their duties properly and not offending that person. So we have to pray to Krishna for that guidance to be able to not offend any devotee if we're in that position of management. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda So we continue reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 6, Madhya Lila, chapter 6, text 267. And then we'll read text 268 as well, and there's a short purport there. Salukyadi chariyadi haya sevadvada Tabukada chit bhakta kade angikara Salukyadi chariyadi haya sevadvada Tabukada chit bhakta kade angikara Salokyadi kariyadi haya sevadvara Tabukada chit bhakta kare angikara
Salokyadi chari jadi haya sevadvara Tabukada chit bhakta kare angikara Salokyadi chari jadi haya sevadvara Tabukada chit bhakta kare angikara
Salokya adi Beginning with Salokya. Chari, four kinds of liberation. Yadi, if. Haya, are. Sevadvara, a means of rendering service to the Lord. Tabu, still. Kadachit, occasionally. Bhakta, a pure devotee. Kare, makes. Angikara, acceptance. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. If there is a chance to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a pure devotee sometimes accepts the Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya or Sarshti forms of liberation, but never Sayujya. Text number 268. Sayujya sunite bhakterahaya. Sayujya sunite bhakterahaya. Grinabhaya naraka vanchaya tabu sayujyanalaya. A pure devotee does not like even to hear about Sayujya Mukti, which inspires him with fear and hatred. Indeed, the pure devotee would rather go to hell than merge into the effulgence of the Lord. Purport. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has sung, Kaivalyam Narakaya Te. The impersonalist's conception of becoming one with the effulgence of the Lord is exactly like hell. Therefore, of the 5 types of liberation, the first 4, Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, and Sarshti, are not so undesirable, because they can be avenues of service to the Lord. Nonetheless, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna rejects even these types of liberation. He only aspires to serve Krishna birth after birth. He is not very interested in stopping the repetition of birth, for he simply desires to serve the Lord, even in hellish circumstances. Consequently, the pure devotee hates and fears Sayujya Mukti, merging into the effulgence of the Lord. This merging is due to an offense committed against the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and therefore it is not at all desirable for a pure devotee. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakarpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is speaking here, and he's answering the question of Lord Chaitanya as to why he changed that verse that Lord Brahma spoke in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. Very beautiful verse. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya changed one word in that verse. Tatenu kampam susamikshamano punjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvak vapurbir vidadan namaste jivetayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Translation is, my dear Lord, one who earnestly awaits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Sounds pretty perfect, a verse. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya changed one word. So Lord Chaitanya is asking, why did you do that? But if we can just pause here for 1 second, because this verse is so beautiful. It basically explains that if a child remains alive longer than the father, then he automatically inherits from the father. He just has to stay alive longer than the father. So in the same way, if we remain alive in Krishna consciousness, then we inherit the kingdom of God. And it's not that easy. It can't be that easy. Otherwise, the reward wouldn't be that great, right? Nothing worthwhile is very cheap. So remaining alive in Krishna consciousness, what does it mean? How do you remain alive in Krishna consciousness? Because we will be tested in our Krishna consciousness. And actually, these tests are mercy of Krishna, because only through a test can you prove yourself and move forward. Right? So if Krishna gives us a test, it's actually a mercy of Krishna. But sometimes these tests can be severe. And I've experienced that devotees sometimes have failed the test. And at least for some time, they actually left Krishna consciousness. There was one devotee and I knew I was quite close with, not very close, but was friends with him. And he was quite a prominent devotee. He was even a temple president. And he changed his ashram and many things happened. He was quite successful actually. And at one point he lost his business. A deal went bad, he lost his business completely. And then his marriage also failed, not directly because of that, but it all came together and his marriage failed. And he couldn't understand, how is it possible that Krishna allowed this to happen? Why didn't he protect me from this? He was obviously praying to Krishna, please help me and let my business not fail. You know? And it just disturbed him too much. He lost faith in Krishna. He couldn't understand that this is my karma. It was just too much. It was like too big a problem that had happened. You know, it was an interesting thing that had happened. So to remain alive in Krishna consciousness means that we tolerantly and patiently receive our karma and continue to worship Krishna. You know, understanding that Krishna is actually very merciful, and it's not that he is not in control or he's not kind, you know, or maybe he doesn't exist. This is the mentality of the atheist. They think, oh, so many bad things are happening in the world. How is it possible that God exists? How is it possible? A child is born into a family where they get abused by the parents and even killed at 1 year old or 2 years old or a couple of months old. I've seen these stories. If you read these stories in the news about the children being abused by the mothers and the fathers, it's bewildering, it's shocking, it's disturbing. So imagine that something like that happens to you. But yeah, so people see these things in the news and they think, how is it possible that God exists? It can't be possible. If God does exist, he's not all-powerful. Or if God does exist, he's all-powerful, but he's a bit mean. He's a mean person. But this is where karma, the understanding of karma and reincarnation comes in. You know, so we preach like this to new people that yes, this is not a contradiction. God does exist, but all these things are our own fault. But then even sometimes as devotees, we may encounter things that are so challenging and so disturbing that we ourselves, our faith is questioned. Yeah. And so to remain alive in Krishna consciousness means that we keep our faith in Krishna. Everything good that happens to us is by Krishna's mercy. And everything bad that happens to us is our karma. This is the mentality of the devotee. Yeah. And I'm sure it's not easy in all circumstances. And some challenges will come in our lives where this will be tested. And one very nice verse that we can, one very nice pastime that we can actually refer to is the killing of Putana. There's a famous verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, 23 actually. It's not in the 10th canto, it's in the 3rd canto, but it describes how merciful Krishna is with regards to this pastime. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam jigam sayaya payayad apyasaji lebegatim dadrityuch chitam tatonyam kamva dayalum sharanam vrajema. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he, who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. So this is Uddhava speaking, reflecting on Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And how merciful Krishna is that he granted that position to Putana. So there's a very nice pastime from Chaitanya Charitamrita involving Mukunda, Gadadhar Pandit, and Pundrik Vijayanidhi. You may know this pastime. It's a very famous pastime. And this shows us how strong someone's faith can be. So Pundrik Vijayanidhi, he was a very wealthy householder. And he was living in great opulence. He was living very lavishly when he came to Navadvip. And nobody actually knew that he was a great devotee. Only Mukunda knew this. So he took Gadadhar Pandit and he said, come and meet this great devotee. And when Gadadhar Pandit saw him, he actually thought, no, this is a contradiction. How can someone live in such luxury and enjoying this, seemingly this luxury so much, right? It's one thing if one may have a lot of luxury and a lot of money, but they live in a very austere way, then you might think, okay, he's a very advanced person. But Pundrik Vijayanidhi was just enjoying, it seemed. And so Gadadhar Pandit was doubting this, and Mukunda was there, was showing him. But then he recited this verse about Krishna being so kind, of giving the position of mother to Putana. And as soon as he recited this verse, Pundrik Vijayanidhi completely went into a different consciousness, where he manifested his Krishna consciousness. He started rolling around in ecstasy, smashing things and destroying all these fancy things that were there, not caring about them at all, actually. He was just completely absorbed in this thought of how merciful Krishna is, how merciful. And so we can see he actually had so much faith in Krishna and appreciation for Krishna. There's another nice pastime. One devotee, Lord Chaitanya was revealing himself to all the devotees and having private darshans with all the devotees. And one devotee, I forget his name actually, you probably know, he was a great dancer and a great singer. And he had a very tricky situation in his private life, where his family members were Mayavadis. And because he lived with them, he didn't constantly debate with them about this problem in the philosophy, their misunderstanding in the philosophy. He just let them be, because he's living with them. You can't constantly be debating with them. So Lord Chaitanya said to the devotees, I don't want to see this person. Would anybody remember his name? Sorry. But okay, so this devotee, Lord Chaitanya didn't want to see him. He said, tell him I never want to see him again, because he's duplicitous. To us, he's devoted and he's convinced of the philosophy, and to his family members, he's tolerating that and he's not defeating them in debate. He's duplicitous. I never want to see him again. So the devotees went out and told him, I'm sorry, Lord Chaitanya said he's not going to give you darshan. Ever. And so he went into complete devastation. He was completely devastated. He was like going to give up his life. So the devotees went back and they could see, and they were really feeling his pain. they went back to see Lord Chaitanya and they told him, Lord Chaitanya, this is how he responded. This is a serious problem that you're not going to give him darshan. He didn't take this very well. And they had explained how he was behaving and all that. And then Lord Chaitanya said, okay, tell him I will give him darshan after like 1,000 lifetimes, some long period. And the devotees told him this. And he was ecstatic. He was so excited. He was so happy. I will see, he said. He was jumping around. I will see. He had such deep appreciation for Lord Chaitanya that even though it was going to take 1,000 lifetimes, just the fact that he was going to see him again, he was completely overwhelmed with ecstasy. So the devotees became so happy. This enthusiasm was completely contagious. They went back to Lord Chaitanya so excited and they said, oh, he's so happy now. This is what he's doing. And then Lord Chaitanya appreciated that so much that he said, okay, send him in now. So then he came in and they had a nice darshan. So this is a very beautiful display of deep appreciation, very deep appreciation. Even for a small bit of mercy, seemingly very small. And so, yeah, we have so much mercy. We have received so much mercy. And we actually have so much to be grateful for and so much to be thankful for in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada has given us so much. And if we are attentive, we can also see how Krishna is part of our lives so much. He's helping us in different ways. And yeah, so we need to remember these times, remember these past times, remember these incidences when our faith may also be tested sometimes. So coming back to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and these types of liberation, and why did he change this word? So as we read previously, there's 5 types, and as we read today, the 4 types were mentioned. Salokya, achieving the residence on the same planet as the Supreme Lord. Samipya, being on the close proximity of the Lord. Sarupya, attaining a similar form to the Lord's. Described as having 4 arms. Shaustri, gaining opulence equal to those of the Lord. And then Sayujya, merging into the Lord's Brahman effulgence. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that the devotees, they don't want these liberations. I mean, that's saying quite something. You know, these liberations are not, I mean, at least the top 4, they're not small things. I mean, even if you consider having like 1 billion euros, okay, imagine having 1 billion euros. That's kind of liberating, right? It solves a lot of problems, you could say. You kind of get liberated from a lot of problems. That's just some money. Now, imagine going to the same planet as the Lord. You're in Vaikuntha, you're completely free from all anxiety. And imagine not wanting that. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of natural that you would want that, you know, to be free from all anxiety. And yeah, but the pure devotee doesn't. He doesn't want that. He only wants to serve Krishna. He only thinks of serving Krishna. Yeah. And this is why he's so dear to the Lord. Yeah. So what was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's answer? Why did he change this word? The reason why he changed this word is because bhakti, he changed it to bhakti. He changed mukti to bhakti. That if you do this and this, you'll be eligible for bhakti, not mukti. And he did that because bhakti is more important than liberation. And because this 5th type of liberation is really undesirable. It's very undesirable, as we read in the purport. Actually, it inspires hatred in the hearts of the devotee. I was surprised to read that. That's quite something. So we know how to dovetail our hatred. We direct it at Sayujya Mukti. If you want to hate something, hate Sayujya Mukti. Yeah. And elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually, I found a very interesting verse which describes the devotee's mentality, or not the devotee's mentality, but Lord Narayan is glorifying the devotees. He's talking to Durvasa Muni, the pastime where Durvasa Muni gets chased by the Sudarshan Chakra. And he approaches Lord Narayan, please save me from the Sudarshan Chakra. And then Lord Narayan says, hold on, you've offended one of my devotees. Let me put this in context for you. My devotees are very, very dear to me. And then he starts glorifying the devotees. And one of the things he says is, my devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the 4 principles of liberation. Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Sarshti. Although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? Yeah. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Bilva Mangal Thakur realized that if one develops his natural devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukti stands before him with folded hands to offer all kinds of service. In other words, the devotee is already liberated. So he doesn't desire liberation. He only wants to serve Krishna. Yeah. And we're saying how attaining one of these muktis, going to the planet of the Lord, is great. Even going to higher planetary systems, it's quite desirable. It's quite nice to be there. If you consider our problems that we have on a daily basis, aches and pains in the body. There's in heavenly planets, there's no getting old and diseased. There's birth and death. No old age and disease. So a lot of the problems that we have, they don't experience them there. So yeah, to put it in context, the pure devotee is extremely special, is extremely elevated. To not desire these things, to be transcendental to these things is very, very special. Yeah. Of course, a devotee would not be given Sayujya Mukti as a result of his worship. So in the verse, it says, if you constantly worship the Lord with all your heart while receiving all your karma, but you're patiently worshipping the Lord with all your heart, you'll be eligible for liberation. It's actually not that you'll get that type of liberation. Sayujya Mukti is a punishment for an offense. It's not a reward. So a devotee will only get those 4 types, the top 4, but he doesn't want them either. So, but still, because it is one of the official types of liberation, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, no, we must take out this word liberation. When you use bhakti. Because when you have bhakti, you're already liberated. Yeah. Actually, for the devotees, there's no question of hell. Because the pure devotee will always serve Krishna, no matter where he goes. Even in hell, he'll serve Krishna. And you can serve Krishna in hell. The only place that you can't serve Krishna is in the Brahmajyoti. That's the only place that you cannot serve Krishna. It's not possible. So we don't want to go there. We have hatred for that idea of not being able to serve Krishna. Right? We should meditate like that. The pure devotee, he has that. He has a hatred for that concept of not being able to serve Krishna. Yeah. And we can see by Srila Prabhupada's example that there's no question of hell. He came to the material world, to the middle planetary system, the earthly planet, but on this planet there are hellish conditions. There's enjoyment and there's hellish conditions. There's a balance. And so, for example, like death is kind of like a hellish. There's great suffering involved with death. So Srila Prabhupada was lying on his deathbed, his body completely breaking down. It involves a lot of pain when the body breaks down like that, I've been told. But what was Srila Prabhupada doing? He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam right till the very end. And at the actual very end, he chanted Hare Krishna. Usually people are absorbed in their pain. They're absorbed in the bodily consciousness. But Srila Prabhupada was absorbed in Krishna. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. He was absorbed in Krishna consciousness. He was transcendental. So we can see from his example, there's no question of hell for the devotee. He can preach anywhere. So Mayavadis are the greatest offenders. And Mayavadis try to disprove the existence of God, and they mislead others. And their punishment is to merge into the Brahmajyoti. Actually, they start to desire this. They want it, actually. At the point where they achieve that, that's their main focus, their main desire. They want to merge into the existence of God, into the Brahmajyoti. So they get that, but it's actually like a punishment for their mentality. Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Dayanitai Ki Jai. And this is the sort of tricky part of Maya, that she covers your intelligence. So you desire something which is actually not beneficial. It takes you away from Krishna, and you become convinced about it. And we experience this in little ways. For example, getting up early and putting off the alarm clock and pressing snooze. At that moment, in split seconds, the mind tells you, no, this is a good idea. You should do this. Because you're tired and because you have this. And so many ideas come up within a split second into your mind. And then you make that decision that you think is a good decision, that I should sleep a little bit more. So in the same way, in a larger scale, the Mayavadis actually think that it's a great idea to merge into the Brahmajyoti. But the devotees, because they have Krishna's superior intelligence, understand that this is hellish. And it's actually a punishment for an offense. And of course the Mayavadis cannot be satisfied there, because the soul cannot be satisfied without service to Krishna. And so they come back down into the material world. So the principle of offenses is very important to be aware of, be careful of, because ultimately it can result in that, being in a position where you cannot serve Krishna. And what is the greatest type of offense? Yeah, offending the devotees. Consider the mad elephant offense. I consider a mad elephant going into a little garden, a small garden, and just destroying everything, trampling everything. Yeah, he's not able to stay on the footpath, that elephant. There's little paths where he's in the garden. He can't even try. He just destroys everything automatically. So when we offend the devotees, we get ourselves into that situation where you naturally just start destroying your spiritual life. You start offending more and more and more devotees. So we have to be very careful. There's a wonderful pastime of Srila Rupa Goswami. When Srila Rupa Goswami was meditating, and he was in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna as Rupa Manjari. And he was completely absorbed. He was in another reality. And something in that pastime, in that reality, made him laugh. And as he was laughing, a hunchbacked devotee walked past him. And he took it that Rupa Goswami is laughing at me. Because people did that sometimes. They laughed at him because he was hunchbacked. So he took it as that. And immediately as that happened, Srila Rupa Goswami's meditation broke. He got a reaction for that. Even though he had no idea that he was even doing it, not what to speak of it being intentional, some kind of disturbance was caused to another devotee. And so he got a reaction for that. And the hunchback devotee carried on walking. Rupa Goswami woke up out of his meditation and didn't know what was going on. So the devotee knew Rupa Goswami, the hunchback devotee, and he was surprised. And he thought, let me go to Sanatana Goswami and ask him how to understand this, that Rupa Goswami laughed at me. Because usually he wouldn't do that. But he just felt like he laughed at me. And Sanatana Goswami said, okay, let us go and speak to Rupa Goswami. Let us ask him. And Rupa Goswami had the same idea. He wanted to speak to Sanatana Goswami to ask him, how is it possible that my meditation broke? What do you think could have happened? So they met along the way, and everything was discussed, everything was explained, everybody understood each other again, and everything was forgiven and forgotten, so to speak. But it's a very interesting example about how any type of offense to a devotee can be very disturbing. Yeah. And so the Mayavadis are the greatest offenders. They offend in Krishna because they want to argue Krishna out of existence, and they think the highest aspect of Krishna is his impersonal energy, and everything else is illusion. He doesn't really have a form, and so on and so forth. So they're very offensive to Krishna. But they also become offensive to the devotees, because they don't value the devotees. They don't think they have value, because they don't believe in Krishna. So why do the devotees have value? So they will also offend the devotees. And this is very interesting, because the devotees have value in relation to Krishna. I mean, it's not exclusively like that, because we know Krishna says, what to speak of my devotee, even the devotee of my devotee is very dear to me. Which means they are not his devotees, that person. They might be a parent of a devotee, right? So they're dedicated to the devotee. They don't even have any idea of Krishna, of worshipping Krishna. They're not devotees of Krishna, but they're devotees of the devotee. Sort of like a parent type situation, or maybe there's some other situation where that's the case. And Krishna says they're very dear to me because they're actually appreciating the devotees. But we can also understand it in a general sense that the devotees have value because of Krishna, that they are dear to Krishna. And that's why they should be dear to us, right? Like sometimes we might have some devotees in our midst, in our peer group, and we don't really like them so much. It's possible. Like, we don't really connect with them. The type of person that they are, like everybody has their individual character. And you don't really understand them, you don't really relate to them so well, the way they behave, it's not your type of person. Let's be real, right? So then, you might not appreciate them so much, but you know they're a devotee of Krishna, and you know that Krishna appreciates that person very much. So then you have appreciation for that person, because they are devotees of Krishna. They are your people. Even though in the intimate, in a more detailed way, they might not be like exactly your cup of tea, so to speak. Right? So they have value in relation to Krishna. So the Mayavadis, they can't appreciate devotees in that way. Another example of this type of thing is if imagine you're walking in the park and you meet somebody like that's very important. Let's say maybe it's your boss, and whether they're very important is arguable, but let's say somebody very important like the president of the country. You meet this person. And they're walking with their child. Now you don't really have a relationship with that child. You don't really value the child. The person is the father is the important person. But you will offer some kind words, or you'll try to develop a relationship a little bit, or be kind to that child. And in that way endear yourself to the boss. Right? And that's how it works. And they will appreciate you for doing that. So in the same way, in Krishna consciousness, we show appreciation for the devotees because they're dear to Krishna. Even though sometimes we don't connect with them so much. Yeah. Because we want to serve Krishna. If we get caught up in offenses, then it can result in a situation where we cannot serve Krishna. Even if we don't go as far as merging with the Brahmajyoti, where you literally cannot serve Krishna in that situation. We might, through offenses, find ourselves in a position where we just don't appreciate service anymore. Because that appreciation has been taken away by our offenses. By Krishna, He's taken away the taste. That can happen if we offend. And if we think back in a situation where we may have done something like that by mistake, or somehow we weren't able to control our minds, and we said something, we offended somebody. you immediately feel, or very quickly after that, you feel a disturbance. If you think of chanting and you try and chant, then you feel like it's not flowing. I'm not connected. So it's very immediate, actually, the effect. And that's great, because that's Krishna's mercy, that you can have immediately a reaction, and then you can say, oh, something is wrong. Let me look, let me think, who did I offend? Okay, who did I just speak to? All right, it was that person. And then you can rectify, you know. And the devotees are very kind and humble, and they generally appreciate when you approach them and ask them for forgiveness. All right. Because if we commit an offense, what is it called? What do we call an offense in Sanskrit? Aparada. Means against Radha, right? Against Radha. Because Radha is actually the only person that's serving Krishna, in a sense. Krishna knows no one but Radharani. In a sense, he knows no one but Radharani. Only Radharani is serving Krishna, and everybody else is serving the servant of 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 the servant ad infinitum of Radharani. So we're all assisting like that. You know, it's a very beautiful meditation. Jai, so I think we'll end here. Thank you very much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki. Have anybody got any comments or questions? Comments? Yes, Mataji.
I like the point you made about why we hate Mayavadi philosophy and Brahmacharya. The question is, should we also hate Mayavadis for that reason that they cannot serve Krishna?
Yeah, good question. Should we hate Mayavadi? So we hate the idea of merging with the Brahmajyoti, this type of mukti, because we can't serve Krishna there. But I don't think we should hate anyone, including Mayavadis. They are in Maya, and they are doing something wrong, and we should probably stay away from them. Yeah, I don't think we should. I mean, when we figure out this person is actually a Mayavadi, he's an offensive person. He's not just an impersonalist, but he's actually a Mayavadi. He's actually offensive. He's aggressively preaching against this. Then we should stay away from that person, so we don't become contaminated by their attitudes, by their philosophies. But to say that we should hate them, I don't think so. No. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
This past time you meant about Rupa Goswami meditating, that was not his intention to offend anybody, he was just smiling. But then he felt offended and his meditation broke. It seems like we can use the concept of offense to self-aggrandizement or to threaten somebody. You offended me. No. Should we be careful for that? I mean, like, how does it actually work? Because it's unfair here.
Yeah.
Maybe the Acharya did something here or showed something for us to learn, but it doesn't seem to be justice. Why should the meditation broke? He didn't do anything.
Yeah, a good question. You know, should we be aware of false offenses and somebody claiming to be offended by us and being so disturbed, and then they try to manipulate you in that way? So yeah, the fact is that the meditation broke, and so therefore it's teaching us that rather err on the side of caution, rather accept it. Even if somebody approaches you and you think, really, that was offensive to you, you just rather accept it and take steps. And if it is a manipulation, it will start to come out. It will start to emerge, because through the purity is the force. So with having a pure approach to that situation and saying, okay, you're saying that was a problem. I'm sorry if I disturbed you. And then if it is a manipulation, there's some force in that approach, and it will force him to emerge from his false a false attitude. That's what I think. That rather err on the side of caution. Don't make a judgment call and say, well, I don't think that is possible, that you got offended with that. To have that type of approach and assume that we know, even if we actually know and it's clear, we have to still respond in that way of saying, I'm sorry if you're offended. And sometimes we might have to deal with somebody who's easily offended out of their own pride, kind of thing. Like their own pride has resulted in them being offended by something you did which wasn't mean, it wasn't like offensive, it wasn't intended in any sort of way, but it's real. They're feeling that. They're actually feeling upset. But they're feeling upset because of their own pride. You know what I mean? Like, so you kind of feel like, well, really? Like, but you're just being proud. But you can't, at that time, you can't tell somebody you're being proud. I'm sorry, you have to become more mature. This isn't really a thing that you should be offended about. It's not possible. You can't do that. In that situation, you immediately become the proud person. When you have that approach, you're the proud person now. And that's what the person will see. They'll see, how can you tell me not to be offended? How can you tell me that I'm too immature and I think what you did was wrong? And so in ISKCON, we are constantly bringing in new people. And these new people, obviously, they're on a neophyte level. I mean, I'm on a neophyte level. I've been 25 years practicing Krishna consciousness. I'm on a neophyte level, but like very new. So they're maybe even newer than me, even more kind of under the influence of their minds and their pride than me. It's possible, maybe, I don't know. But the point is, we're constantly preaching, so we're bringing new people in. And those new people are not advanced. And so they might be easily offended because they have very strong egos, their false ego is very strong. So we have to be able to deal with those sort of people in a sensitive way, like, oh, okay, you're offended, okay, I'm sorry, like that, But we might see, come on, it's just your pride, We can see that, What about the spiritual master? They're so advanced, they're so high, they can see, why are you worried about these things? You're on a lower level, you're getting disturbed by various things. So in the same way, sometimes someone might feel offended, and you might think, why are you getting disturbed? But that's a little bit different. You're talking about actually someone manipulating on purpose.
In many cases, we can see it in our society. I had devotees, like Holland, he said that, like, it's not my problem, The problem doesn't lie with me, and he just walked out. Because that the person by nature is very egoistic and selfish and pride. So then I was thinking, how do you do with that? You just walk out, It's their problem, it's not your problem. You are who you are, and it's not your problem. It's their problem. What else can you do? You won't accept your obeisances. He has an agenda with you. Yeah. So at that point, it's already come to the surface. He's already developed a relationship with that person. There's been a couple of incidents already, and he knows this is the way this person is. So it's kind of come to the surface already. Obviously, you can't change someone's behavior and force them to behave differently, but you develop a certain boundary with that person. Like, I'm not going to entertain this. I'm not going to entertain again. So maybe in this situation, he's already developed a relationship and he understands. Yeah, he's manipulating me. Yeah. Tricky. Very tricky. Yes, Prabhu.
We're just going also in a different direction, and sometimes we're in this situation where we may want to speak the truth, but the other person may not want to accept. But like we're not a spiritual master, but when he speaks, it's also sometimes a little bit hurtful in the beginning. If someone speaks something that's true, it may be hurtful in the beginning, but at the same time, you don't want to go over a certain point that the other person actually develops some resentment. So finding this balance of speaking the truth while at the same time being appropriate to the situation seems very difficult. How can we learn this
Yeah. Yeah, good question. When we sometimes are in a situation where we want to speak the truth to someone, but we don't want to hurt their feelings, then how do we manage to do that? Well, for the example, the spiritual master, he's in the position that he is his duty to chastise the disciple. So we have to sometimes think, what position am I in right now? I want to tell the truth to somebody. What's my relationship with that person? Am I in a position to do that? Should I maybe talk to someone else who is in a position of management perhaps, or something like that? And then they talk to the person, and they might be able to hear it better from that person because they're in that position. Or do I have a friendship with that person? Can I then approach it in that way, and I can speak to that person as a friend? And then you have to also consider, is this the right time? Is it currently the best time for me to speak to that person? And then consider, if it's the right time and you're in the right position or you have the relationship, then still consider further, what am I actually going to say? How am I going to say it? So basically plan it carefully, as plan it as well as possible. Before you blurt out something which is the truth, take into consideration the relationship and how it's going to come across. So to, as much as possible, try to avoid that disturbance. So really take it seriously and plan it and pray to Krishna to help you. Because it's really important, because one incident like that, one conversation can trigger a chain reaction in that relationship. And you don't know how the person's going to take it, and then it might make it very complicated. So try to avoid that, and also pray to Krishna, and then, in that way you might be in a better position to, not disturb the devotee. Yeah. So sometimes along that process, you might find, actually I shouldn't do it. Because it may just not be necessary. Yes, it's the truth, but it's not that important. Or yes, it's the truth, but I'm not the right person. Or yes, it's the truth, but it's not the right time. Maybe later. And then if you don't do it at that time, and then some time goes by, you might see, oh right, he actually learned the lesson. I can see now he's behaving differently. He's learned. I don't need to tell him. Yeah. Oh, Prabhu had a question as well before. I'll come back to you now. Yes.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering that nobody of us is perfect, so we are doing the mistakes, and we also like to discuss this with someone else. I think this is now the nature, and this is completely okay. How to do this without suffering, without criticizing someone?
If you have your mistake that you want to discuss with someone else.
I'm speaking about someone else, and it's clear for me that it's not nice what he did, but I wanted to speak about this, and I don't want to do the offering.
So you want to speak to the person or to someone else about the person?
Yes.
So someone else about the person. Yeah, this is very tricky. This is interesting. I think it was Srila Rupa Goswami. He compared this type of thing to the bathing in donkey's urine. So talking about another devotee's fault with someone else, it's like bathing in donkey's urine. Der Urin von dem Esel. Okay. It's not good. It's not a good thing. So one second. So we get together and we think, okay, this is very important that we talk about this person's fault. We need to understand clearly what the fault is, so that we can then talk to this person and tell him, you have this fault. So just like it seems like it's beneficial, like it's okay, we're discussing someone else's fault so that we can help them. Just like bathing in a donkey's urine, you're bathing in some liquid. And you might think, yes, it's liquid, so it might be I'm getting clean, but it's not. It's not that type of liquid. You're not getting clean. So there's a very big risk of getting into that type of discussion. So when you feel like there's a need for that, I would advise that you talk to someone who is senior to you, so that, and more advanced, senior not just in position, but someone who's more advanced in Krishna consciousness than you. So that the chances of that person giving you good advice, giving you good perspective is higher. Because if you discuss with someone who is maybe a peer or someone who's maybe less advanced than you in Krishna consciousness, it's difficult to see, but let's say your peer, then there's a risk that you'll get into a discussion where, like, you discuss negative, the conversation becomes negative and offensive. But if you're discussing with someone who's on a higher level, who has a mature understanding and a deep appreciation for devotees, then the chances are that you're going to have a very healthy discussion, and then you come out of it with appreciation for that devotee who has that fault. So that's what the outcome should be of a discussion like that you have more appreciation for that person. Not that you get together and think, oh yeah, he's bad, and did you know he's also bad in this way? Oh yeah, and last year I saw him doing that, can you believe it? So then you come out of the discussion having even more faults in your head about how many faults this person actually has, and so it's negative. So that's what I would suggest. Yes, Prabhu.
2 points. It was very elaborated on that. How I would deal, I mean, the answers you are giving is very nice, according to Vaishnava etiquette. I'm recognizing that. Almost like you're quoting Vaishnava etiquette, it's very good. The first one I had is like management dealings, how they do. If you see somebody's doing something wrong, they have this kind of idea. He's under, what's it called? He's underscoring, so they will always say, I think you can do better than that. It's very one about this.
Yeah.
I call doing something wrong with additional cooking. I didn't know how to cook sweet rice in the beginning, so I thought it's like when you cook sweet rice with water, forget it. Water and rice is one rice and 1.8 water. When you cook it with milk, it's not 1. So I had to add more and more milk, and I chastised for that. But the way they correct me was like, I think you can do better than this. So you don't feel bad.
Yes.
You already know you did wrong, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have more bad feeling because others have seen you doing wrong. So in this way, this is a technique they use in management. So I think you can do better than that. And then the other one he mentioned is, you should always stick to the principle of scripture. On what basis are you judging that he's wrong? So give the scriptural reference. And if it is wrong, then maybe your vision is wrong. Definitely, you don't even have to go senior, because his vision is more like that.
Yeah.
So when you see a fault in there, you always try to see what can I learn from this. Learn from the mistakes. How do you compare it? Ramchandra Puri, or you compare it to somebody else? Then that mistake becomes actually a way of learning.
Yeah, very nice.
Then you grow in that. And that person, if you discuss that pastime in front of him, he might recognize himself. So in this way, you avoid getting into a personal conflict.
Yeah. Thank you. Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. You might have to come in? Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
In the beginning, you were talking about your friend who was, due to this personal instances, his consciousness was, or his life was going downward, spiritual life as well. In Krishna sense, these situations give us some purification. On the one hand, I can see this. On the other hand, I feel this purification, if we cannot hold on to Krishna, if we fall into Maya and our consciousness decreases, then still, I mean, after the situation, sometimes you realize, oh, actually it was good for me and it was beneficial, but in that situation you're just suffering. And due to this, you're also less connected to Krishna, which also in a sense brings less advancement. So this kind of a doubt in me, okay, I see it can be beneficial, but on the other hand, if my consciousness is, if I'm less Krishna conscious, how can this be beneficial?
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes you might think, okay, so Krishna gave a test that I seemingly failed, and now it's detrimental for my spiritual life. So where's the benefit? So we see that the test sometimes is even longer. And now this devotee is starting to come back again. He's starting to come again to Krishna consciousness and take part. I saw pictures of him in the Rath Yatra with Keshav Swami. So I was like, wow, this is so nice. He's coming back again. So the test kind of continues. So yes, he stepped away from Krishna consciousness, but it's because he wasn't actually offensive to devotees. He was able to continue having some appreciation for Krishna consciousness, for the devotees. He was able to, I met up with him and we had a nice discussion, and so he wasn't like offensive. It was very interesting for me to see that even though he had this issue with Krishna and the process and everything, but he wasn't offensive to devotees. He wasn't like going into like talking bad about his spiritual master or anything like that. He didn't go there. And so he was actually in a way passing the test in certain details. He was still passing. And so he was able to gradually build himself up again. And I think when he comes back to Krishna consciousness now, he'll be stronger. Having gone away and then now feeling again the benefit of chanting Hare Krishna and feeling again the benefit of kirtan and being in the association of devotees, I feel and I pray that he will come through it stronger. But I see that the test might actually be much longer than we might think. We might think the test was when the business failed and when the marriage failed. And his reaction to that is that he failed the test. But the test is continuing. And it might even continue further. And any progress, of course, that we make in Krishna consciousness is never lost. So even if he doesn't really come back in this lifetime, he will come back. And when he does come back, he's going to pick up from where he left off. And we hope that it's in this lifetime so that he can make that conscious effort and have that conscious comparison between what it was like when he left Krishna consciousness and what it's like now to be back in Krishna consciousness. And if that can happen, I think he will be much more determined, much more convinced than he ever was. Yeah, so it's a long process, gradual process. Yeah, but any progress is never lost. Yeah. Is that okay? You want to say something else? Yeah.
We were also talking about offenses earlier, and sometimes you see that some devotee does an offense against another devotee. And I had some situations in my mind where I did not react. I feel now maybe I should have said something, stepped in. I feel like I have committed an offense by not saying anything. Is there some reference in Shastra or that describes that it must be an offense, isn't it? From my side?
Yeah, to tolerate that. I don't have any scriptural reference. If anyone else has.
I can make up something if you like.
Yes, please.
I talk too much, right?
No, you go ahead.
It's so obvious, Mahabharata.
Yeah.
Draupadi Vastrahara.
Yes.
Samyatir Maunam Lakshmanam. Bhishma had to die. Drona had to die. All these kind of people because they were silent.
Right.
The real thing of Mahabharata crux.
So it is an offense to tolerate. But then again, how you respond? Again, you don't want to then yourself cause an offense. So again, it's sensitive. I mean, depending, right? If somebody is physically hurting someone else, you jump in and you channel the Kshatriya spirit, right? You protect that devotee, if you can. But if it's a verbal one, there's different responses. So we have to be careful. Two wrongs don't make a right. So if you see something wrong and then you also behave in a way that's offensive, it's also wrong. But taking some action, yeah, it's good.
Now, I must premise that this may not have to be taken literally in every circumstances. But Srila Prabhu says in Canto 4, Chapter 4, Text 17, in the matter of Sati blasting her father Daksha for offending Shiva. So,
Sati, one theory, Sati should accept his good quality, Daksha good quality, instead of vilifying him. The answer to that argument is that Sati was not vilifying but defending. If possible, she should have cut out Daksha's tongue because he blasphemed Lord Shiva. So then the instruction set forth here in Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should not tolerate at any cost the activities of a person who vilifies or blasphemes an authority. If one is a Brahmana, he should not give up his body because by doing so, he would be responsible for killing a Brahmana. Therefore, a Brahmana should leave the place or block his ears so that he will not hear the blasphemy. If one happens to be a Kshatriya, he has the power to punish any man. Therefore, a Kshatriya should at once cut out the tongue of the vilifier and kill him. But as far as the Vaishyas and Shudras are concerned, they should immediately give up their bodies.
Wow. Yes, so very serious. Definitely take action, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Jai. I think we'll end here. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.